Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's the one known as CR, Creative Redundancy, with another late night stream. Really late TGIF. Wait, I barely got enough time in there. Technically, it's still Friday out west. Technically, I was actually going to consider doing this stream earlier, then I drifted to another stream. Then someone called me, and originally I was almost going to cancel the stream. Then I'm like, but they let me go early, and I'm like, well, might as well. Why not? Why not? So welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you folks out there are doing okay for what it is, right? You know? Hopefully you enjoyed your day. Or getting your day started. Oh, what's up, Mike? Here I thought I was gonna have to wait like at least over a minute to have someone drop by. Appreciate it, Mike. Good evening to you. I know, one of my late night streams. Why not? Besides, I could use the WT anyway, so. Share a few things. Few stories amongst some other things. And like I said, hopefully everyone's doing well for relatively speaking, right? You know, relatively speaking. You know, things happen. You know, at times we're not satisfied with things, but, you know, sometimes I gotta remember, you know, there's still some good things going on. And like the old saying goes, there's probably someone out there that's probably has it worse. So, you know, considering all that, you know, maybe it's not so bad, right? You know, for what it is, right? Especially, you know, you got a home, you got food on the table, you got drinks in your hands, like, you know, coffee, water, you know, the elixir of life. And it makes everything seem not so bad at times. You just happen to be awake, yeah. Yeah. Hopefully you're doing well. I appreciate it. You dropping by, Mike. Hopefully you're doing well. Just gonna have a sip of a drink here. No, it's not alcoholic. It's not an adult beverage. I haven't done that for like... the last time I had one was like last year. It's been over, 7 months now at least. No, not that. I don't need to. I can be exciting without it. I can be ambitious without it too. I don't need it. You know? So, hopefully you guys are all doing well out there for what it is. Me, you know, this Friday, as in today, the 11th, well, which soon will be the 12th, you know, it was, I enjoyed the day, you know. It kind of just swung together, I guess, right? Like, literally, it just, all this stuff just, okay, cool. Cheers. Won't judge, right? I still do it from time to time. Just not as often. I mean, it's been a while. I mean, I could dip into something if I really wanted. I just don't feel like it, really. But, you know, each one to their own, as they say, right? But yeah, today was like one of those days, like, I don't know, I think maybe this is why I'm doing this stream too. Like, I usually, my description will say reconnecting with people. Well, I guess I was reconnecting or connecting with people today, because clearly I was. Because I was doing a bunch of talking to people, right? And stuff like that. And listening and, well, trying to listen. I gotta remember sometimes to, like, talk and express, but also listen too, right? You know? And try to be a good listener too. At times, right? And not just today, yesterday too, actually, which would have been Thursday. You know, shout out to the replay gang. If you're randomly seeing this and like you're into this first 4.5, almost 5 minutes, well, stick around. There might be more. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Out west, Mike. But yeah, it's still Friday, technically. Technically. So, it's still out west. Out west, it's still Friday, so. But yeah, today was one of those days I was just like, I was remembering things and stuff like that. Kind of saw some people I haven't seen for a bit. All right, like I don't know them that well. All right, but you know, I saw them again because, just because the nature of doing things and whatever. Right, I was just like, they're like, you remember that, CR? I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. Of course I remember that. You know, because because I remember talking about it last time or whatever, or you know what I mean. Like it's those kind of things that make you remember it, remind you that oh yeah, those memories, right? Remembering certain little things or bringing up, not like bring up stories. You know what I mean? Not hurtful things or whatever, but good things. Where I'm just like, oh yeah, bro, I think, blah blah blah. I mean, I'm not gonna go into great detail, but just remembering stuff, little tiny details at times, and just like, yeah, I am paying attention. You know, yeah, I'm human too. It may slip my mind, but sometimes I'll remember things from the last time I talked to them, or whatever, last time I saw them and stuff like that. Be like, huh, wave or say hi, or be like, or whatever language, or whatever, right? And wave, virtual fist bump, or all that good stuff, right? You know, try to, I don't know, what's the word? Wicked or be nice? I don't know, neighborly, whatever you want to call that kind of thing. All right, and just keep that in mind, right? I know now at times, I think it always reminds me, you know, in the last 5 years to remember that, right? Remembering that time you spend with people, right? And sometimes it can be shorter than you think at times, right? You know, special special SO shout out to some of my followers down in the U.S., especially in Texas. I know some of you folks are still dealing with a bunch of stuff, right? I feel for you on that too, right? Sometimes that stuff just slips away the next day kind of deal, right? I have friends that I haven't been able to speak to for a bit, right? I mean, yeah, I know they're still kicking it, right? Because, they're send me a like, love heart, whatever kind of deal, right? So, you know, and speak of which, I probably shouldn't drop by their channel too. Actually, I should drop by their channel. Now that I think about it, give them a little bit, be like, I've been falling behind on watching some of the content. I admit I am definitely falling behind on watching some of the content from some of the content creators out there. I've been watching some other stuff, doing some research, and well, doing my thing here too, right? And obviously, I'm taking the time now to do this live stream and to be more transparent about it, right? Just because in the summer I've been trying to do other things, right? You know, taking a little time for myself too, right? Sometimes you gotta take a little bit of time for yourself too, but I'm also remembering some other people, right? Give them some time as much as I can, all right? Hearing people out, right? Making some conversation with a CR in it as much as possible, right? You know, because it seems to be one of these things that seems to be like more apparent as this decade goes on. I'm just saying, all right? So let that sink in because that's something to keep in mind, right? Because, like, like I've said before, I'm pretty sure I've said it before. Well, I'll say it now. You know, it's not it's not why people come together, but it's that they come together in the first place that really matters, right? It could be for a holiday, for a or situation or event or whatever, but the reason why can change, but coming together in the first place. That's actually doing it, or having the time to doing it, or setting some time to doing it is important too, right? Where you start to make the memories because you've made conversation about it and stuff like that. Yeah, take care, Mike. But yeah, stuff like that, like because you gotta remember that, right? That's part of life, right? As I have a sip of my warm beverage here, which is sick. It's not quite tea. Yeah, let that sink in. And now I'm not drinking or anything like that. I'm just being honest here. I don't need to be drinking to be that honest. I'd probably be that honest anyways. Right? Because, like I said, it does matter. Right? It does matter. Remembering that as much as possible. And to keep going with it, right? And the reasons to go on at times, right? To keep pushing it forward. To push it to the limit. Kick it into overdrive, whatever it is, right? And doing something, right? Like, even today for me, like, I'll be perfectly honest, I went out to go for a walk with a backpack on. Okay? I was just like, I don't know, because I was doing so much here. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been going for the walks, but they were been shorter walks, but I went for, quote-unquote, a longer walk this time. Because I've been so busy doing a few things here and stuff like that, I almost forgot to, like, go for these walks at times, right? So it was like, metaphorically, packed up a bag and, got equipped and headed out on a really quick trip. Okay. That didn't quite rhyme, but whatever. You get what I mean, right? What's up next? GP? I see you both in here. How are you both doing? Hopefully you both are doing well. Yeah, see, randomly I randomly go like live at this time and what GP's here. In the first 13 minutes. 12 and a half minutes. Close enough. Alright. He's able to do it. And the time zone difference. And I'll probably see him later again. And hear him later again. Talking away. He has a way. GP, I'll be serious, man. You got a way with words. You got a way with words. Not a way, but a way. With a space in between. Not joined together. I'm just saying. Right? Oh, yeah. Let me pop these right on the screen here. Yeah, see? GP. Woo! Oh. I can't forget this guy. This guy who's in the nick of time for me showing him on the screen. Nick. Woo. Alright. Appreciate both of you dropping by. Taking the time. Alright. I know I see you guys. Well, I know I'll see you guys later. I'm pretty sure. It's not set in stone, but it might be set in a live stream. Oh, not mine. Someone else's. I usually see you guys on a Saturday. But, yeah, I guess I'll see you guys on a Friday/Saturday versus this afternoon/evening Saturday. So, yeah. I'm pretty sure GP's got some coffee in his hands right now. He's probably like, I'm just waking up, CR. as I try to mimic that. All right. So don't everyone drift away here. I'm not leaving yet. I was just emphasizing, dramatically what he could be doing. I don't know what he's doing, because that'd be weird if I knew what he was doing. Unless he messages me right now. It's like, oh, Sierra, by the way, yeah, I just woke up, But he's not messaging me saying that. Just saying. It'd be funny if he did right now. I just see this message. It's just, Sierra, I'm just waking up, but yeah, I'm here on the live stream. And this is why this is a late night stream with me. There's no real topic, per se, right? I don't even know if I actually put something in the description. Did I actually put something in the description? I don't even know. I know I have the world maps live stream thumbnail up, and I know it says late night with CR. Some sort, right? So, one of my late night streams are technically usually like more opened to a certain degree, relatively speaking. It's not as confined as some of my more. Here's the topic I'm talking about because I'm talking about this and it says it in the title and the description's filled out and it's at evening time in North America, and it's not like one of these late night streams where, the people that are like overseas are coming in, or people that are burning the midnight oil and all that stuff. And see, you know what I'm talking. Sweet. It's like I knew. I just touched my forehead and he just beamed that caffeine message over to me. Yes, CR. Coffee. Yes. Let's just say it. Yeah. Oh, hi. She gets a virtual fist bump from me and you too, GP. And you too, Nick. Don't feel left out. You get a virtual fist bump too. Boom. Yeah. Alright. I feel like I gotta do research on that topic for that stream. I have no idea what it means. So, I guess I'll just have to. Maybe I'll just be surprised and find out. I'll be surprised, and I'll just have to find out what it means. I'll have to wait like what is it, like 12 hours from now, give or take? I think it is in 12 hours. I have to double check. I thought there was a notification on a delay, but I'll have to double check that. There might be a delay. I have to double check that after the stream and double check to see if it's actually still at same time. 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and every other time zone in between and among that. Yeah, CGP doesn't even know. He's asking me now. I'm trying. I don't want to say it because I feel like I don't know it word for word, but I remember on the phone now. It's something different. I'm not as familiar with the terminology, anyways. Or at least I've never heard of it. I mean, I've heard other terminology, other things, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that is or whatever. But then there's other things at times I'm like, well, that's new to me. So maybe I'll drop in. Well, most likely. 99.9% chance of dropping in and at least understand what it means. At least for the 5 minutes so I can actually know what it means without actually searching for it. I'll be like, oh, that's what it means. I always wondered what that meant. Yeah, something along the lines of that. Nick, yeah, something along the. But yeah. Like I said earlier, I was reconnecting with some people, just like how I'm reconnecting with GP and Nick here. In a virtual environment, but I was kind of reconnecting with some people in a more, quote unquote, face-to-face real world environment, right? Just chatting with them. It was so, something that was, I'll just chat for 5 minutes turns into like 20, 25 minutes, right? That kind of thing when you're just like, there's something about that, right? Where it's just like, oh yeah, 5 minutes turns into 25 minutes of conversation instead, right? Where people can spare the time or whatever, right? And sharing some stories, memories, amongst some other things, common interests or something like that, and realizing, hey, they're into that too, or whatever, right? And it's so cool at times. I'm just like, and being able to be relatable to other people as much as possible, right? You know, or asking questions because it's like, oh, I didn't know that. What is that? What planet is this? Right. I know. If I ever saw GP in person, like over there where he lives, if whatever, right? Mysteriously, that just happened, right? In the next 10 seconds or whatever, I'd be like, GP, what's this planet? I've never seen this before. Because if we got this in Canada, I've never seen it before, right? Or whatever, right? Because obviously there'd be different plants in different areas, right? I mean, there might be like I might have seen it in a picture, may have even seen it in a video, right? But I've never seen it face to face, where I can touch it, smell it, you know, understand the characteristics. Yes, I see our word in there about it, whatever it is, right? I was even talking to someone earlier about that, right? They're like, "Oh, you could use the apps, take a picture, blah blah blah, and all that. It'll tell you what it is, right?" Yeah, I get that to a certain degree, but there's other things I want to understand. Like, if it's a plant or whatever, I'd be like, you know, understanding the life cycle of it, right? How does it look like? I'm seeing it in this mature state when it's or whatever. But what kind of flower does it make? What does it? How does it look? What do the seeds look like? How does it sprout? I feel like I'm sprouting GP's interest by talking about gardening. He's probably like, oh yeah, I'll chime in. I was not saying. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it, but yeah, I'm not gonna say it. I was gonna say something funny, but yeah. Let's just say there's no doubt that I derailed the stream if I start saying that. Right. But yeah, I was just talking to someone, right? I've known for a while, right? I was just like, they mentioned that. I'm like, it's because I feel like I learn, well, at least in terms of plants, anyways, right? I understand it better, right? Sometimes, the name, I could talk to people and I'll ask people, and they're like, oh, I don't know. They'll be like, I'll be like asking them, oh, do you know what the name of this? They'll be like, oh, I don't know the official name. I call it they call it that or whatever, right? And I try to understand the characteristics of the plant, right? Leaf structure, you know, what kind of, does it make tippy leaves or round leaves or like sets of threes, sets of fours, whatever, right? Like, how does it look like when it's a sprout? What does the seed look like even, right? You know? Learning about that stuff, it's like, oh, that takes a lot more. That takes a lot more time to germinate. Oh, this sprouts fast, or something like that, right? Stuff that I don't know unless I either research it or see it or do it for myself, right? And understanding that, right? And understanding by doing, you know, gaining experience by doing. Oh, just like preparedness, right? At times where you're like, sometimes the best way to understand or learn is by doing, right? Gaining experience, right? You know, where it's more than just the gear and the resources, right? Just like the plants, right? Yeah, they're important, but understanding how it works together and and stuff like that, right? Because then you start to understand what you can do with it, characteristics of the gear, the plant, or whatever, right? What it can do for well, me, you, us, people in general, right? I mean, someone had to find that out. If you think about it, right? Whatever it is, right? You know, if this is supposed to be a derivative from a plant, well, someone had to figure that out. Someone had to figure that out through characteristics, trial and error, whatever it is, right? They had to experience that kind of thing, right? This stuff is like, oh, this plant could be used for that, whatever, right? I'm not giving medical advice, but like something like that. Someone has to actually figure that out. If you think about, and that knowledge was passed down within time, and and some people know it, and some people not so much, right? Or people only know it because they searched for it or they heard about it. Oh, I heard about it, right? I've never seen it, right? That kind of thing, right? Hello, Grace. Hey, it's the bank line lady. How are you doing? I appreciate you graciously gracing your appearance over here. Okay, that probably just okay. I'll just shut up now. That probably was like lame, but yeah, I appreciate it, Grace. Hopefully you're doing well. But yeah, you know, so you know, but before I derail myself, because I feel like as I've gone throughout this course, this journey on this channel, well, in life in general too, right? I've been discovering a lot more. And I'm not just using the word discover because it's got C right now, but legit. I'm finding out things. I guess that's what life is, right? At times or whatever, right? The journey, understanding, learning from it, right? Experiencing it, right? Because sometimes experience leads the way or shows you that path, right? At times, right? Where you're like, yeah, let's not make that kind of error or mistake again. Learn from the experience, right? You know, I'm not saying I'm the most experienced person, right? If I was the most experienced person, blah 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 blah, well, other things would be going on, right? There'd be a lot more to show or whatever, right? But all I know is, in this space, at this time, I'm right here doing this live stream, and I have a bunch of people listen to me probably ramble on. That's your cue, GP. Oh, sorry. I was supposed to say that in my head. I wasn't supposed to say it out loud. You can't see me winking, GP. Inside joke. Yeah. Right? Do it. So, that's why I'm just like, you know what? Yeah. I think another reason why I've been doing these late night streams a little bit when I can now is kind of almost unwind. Reflect almost to a certain degree, right? Not just on the day, yeah, I'm reflecting on the day to a certain degree, right? When reflecting on other things and understanding certain things, right? If things are bad, when you see other things and you put it into context, it doesn't seem as bad, right? And when things are good, you remember how lucky it is to have it that good, whatever it is. It could be as serious or, like, literally, like, absolutely required, like, water and food. And no, I'm not done talking about random food. That'll probably be the last of me. I don't want to talk random food chat. I know. I don't want everyone sliding out to the kitchen here. I mean, getting a snack. I mean, if you guys want to slide and get a snack, I'm not gonna stop you. But But if I feel like if I just start talking about the food chat, then everyone will be like, oh, I'm getting hungry, Sierra. Oh, I want this. GP will be like, oh, I haven't had breakfast yet. I only had my coffee. I need a bite to eat. I'm not going to the. Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm rambling. I mean, you know what I mean? So, that's why I've been doing these late night streams where it's a little bit different, right? It's not as structured as some of my other live streams that actually have a topic, right? This is kind of here, there, everywhere, and how it mixes and combines all together. And without a title and insert words like this and that, right? As much as possible. Oh, okay. Hey, whatever. What's your whistle? Did Sarah just say that? Oh yeah, I did. Dang it. Well, anyways, it's too late. I can't take it back. This is a live stream. I can't take that. I can't take that stuff back anymore. It's live. It's out there. People have already heard me say it, and I'm not listening to video. Okay, I need the WT. But yeah. So, you know, where was I? Oh yeah. So this stream has no specific topic. It's a little bit this, a little bit that. Like, I'll read the comments or whatever. Maybe maybe they'll bounce some ideas back over to me or vice versa, right, and stuff like that. But generally, this is like one of those streams that's kind of, I wouldn't say a chill stream. Also, it's more laid back because there's no topic in the description or in the title, right? This is more, like I said, when people ask me at times on these, right, what's the topic? Well, if it says it in the title, it says it in the description, like there's words in there, more specific words, then you'll know. But if it's like this, generally it's more traditionally open. I may dive into things, I may talk about certain things, even in more or greater detail, but it's not the highlight of the stream, right? Sometimes these streams are just me saying a few words here and there. Okay, maybe, okay, I'll be honest. Saying a lot more than just a few words, because honestly, I don't have a panel, and it's my live stream, and I've already been at this for half an hour. Alright. So let me ask this. What are you guys doing right now? Okay, I know GP, it's morning time there, but the rest of you, I know it's not morning for everyone. I know it's nighttime for some of you out there. Because clearly some of you are burning the midnight oil, as they say, right? Or whatever you want. Or night owl, whatever you want to call it, right? Stuff like that. I just found it warm inside, so I decided to come outside, cool off a little bit. I mean, it's not that hot outside. It's probably like 16 Celsius, 16 Fahrenheit out, give or take. I mean, there's a nice cool breeze out there. It's very nice. I'm wearing a vest, so it's not that cold. It's not like hot. It's not cold either. It's actually quite comfortable. Actually, it's actually quite nice out here because I don't even sense the mosquitoes out here. So I mean, like, this is almost ideal to be like camping out almost. Actually, this would be this kind of time of year, or at least like today or whatever, tomorrow too, right? It's an ideal kind of camping weather, right? It's not too hot, not too cold. It's in that Goldilocks zone where it's just right? You know? That kind of thing, right? Oh, you're doing some research? Oh, well, I guess I did ask. He's like, oh, I wonder what GP's doing. Well, I clearly did not consider him saying that. That's for sure. Hold on a sec. I gotta sneeze. And stuff like that. Like, I didn't consider him doing that, but hey, each one to their own, right? Like I said, I've been doing some other research. Alright. Actually, I gotta remember not to just watch videos on it. But maybe I'll look at some text and some other things. But I've been trying to learn from the past at times, right? I've been on this like kind of like path towards like learning from the past, right? You know what I mean? And I've mentioned this before, where I'm learning from like there are times in the past where what people have done at times, right? Like, even today I watched this like whole half an hour, well, I didn't actually finish it, but I started thinking about the Great Depression. I've been watching about things done during medieval time, ancient Roman time, and all that stuff. And literally, I went down a rabbit hole, which led me to like Archimedes randomly. I was just like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. There's that water moving tool. All right, I was just like looking into that too, right? Because I was just like, and you're probably like, oh, why are you looking at that kind of old school primitive stuff or whatever, right? I was like, because at that time, that was the technology at the time, right? You know, remember, technology does not necessarily have to be digital. Yeah, we have digital technology like a phone, computer devices. We got satellites, GPS, blah blah blah. We got sat phones and all that stuff, right? But some of this more mechanical, analog type of technology as it existed throughout time, right? And I've just been trying to re-understand some of that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, I've been, yeah. Oh, I didn't actually know that name. Yeah, I guess not. Well, I guess that would make sense. I shouldn't assume everyone's in North America unless they say so. But, I guess now I know. Would explain a lot though. Definitely would explain a lot at times. But yeah, I've been trying to learn some of that stuff, or at least understand it a little bit better, and maybe even try some of it or make some of it. I've been reconsidering it. I mean, it's not that I haven't considered that kind of stuff before. It's just like more researching it more, right? We all. I mean, there's that. I've said this before. The simple machines of the past, right? Or the compound or complex machines, right? You know, and we see it all everywhere around us, right? And I'm not just talking about the wheel, right? I'm talking about everything, right? Wedges, right? Like wedges. I don't use a wedge. See here? Well, in the bushcrafting community and in the survival community, right? A cutting tool, a saw is a wedge. It's just a very precise, refined, or put together kind of type of wedge, or two wedges side by side, right? That is a cutting tool, like a hatchet, machete, knife, stuff like that, right? And there's other things too that are maybe more, well, not necessarily modern, but like a modern version of it, like a screw or whatever, screw that's in the walls, maybe a screw that's holding like your deadbolt on your door, right? I've been watching these like, you know, power outage type of things or whatever, right? What to do in the blackout or whatever, these type of things, and then it's just like I'm always hearing, yeah, yeah, replace the screws with deeper, with like 3-inch screws and stuff like that, right? Well, that kind of stuff is still technology, right? It wasn't like that a long time ago, 100 years ago or whatever, right? So now all that stuff's mass produced, with automated, with more complicated machines that are able to, mass produce that with threads that are all the same size or whatever, right? So stuff like that, where it's uniform, set dimensions and stuff like that, and stuff like that. Back then, remember, before the age of machine tools, that kind of stuff was all done by hand, right? Someone actually had, but because of that, it wasn't all uniform, right? Nowadays, a 2-inch screw or whatever, there's certain like thread lines and stuff like that, stuff like that. It's just like you use for anyone that does any content creating, right? With a tripod or whatever. Well, sometimes you gotta the bolts and stuff like that, the screws that are used to put your tripod on. Well, your stand for your phone onto the said tripod, right? Stuff like that, right? That's the reason why, you can buy like a phone stand for your tripod, and it'll fit, right? Because it's a universal fit. Or at least it'll fit certain size, right? You know what I mean? Well, I'm not that smart, and I don't know what that means, and I probably should know what that means because it's got Sierra in it. Apparently I need to increase my vocabulary on some of these CR words, because clearly I'm falling behind on the CR vocabulary at times. I'm like, you know, it's just like, there's actually one word I actually used like earlier this week, with a CR word that I haven't used. I mean, I kind of knew about the word, because that's why I used it, but I used the word vulture, not vulture, but voucher, right? I was just like, huh. Surprisingly, I never used it as a CR word, but I guess it just never comes out in conversation or whatever, or lack of conversation to bringing it up, right? Context and stuff like that. But that's why I've been trying to increase my horizons on some stuff, right? Try to pick up some more knowledge, and not only that, try to apply it too, right? It don't matter how many words you know or whatever, right? Can you apply it when you're talking, explaining stuff or whatever? Being able to like apply it and stuff like that, right? You know, I was never great at spelling when I was young. I mean, at times I'm probably still spelling things phonetically, right? You know. Yeah, because for some reason I keep everywhere I go, you know. There's especially on the gardening videos and that. For some reason, I always spell it SEED. I don't know why I can't spell C. I always I always spell it with that extra D. I don't know why. It just, oh, that's because I meant to, right? Wink, wink. Yeah. Oh, okay. But you know, stuff like that I've been trying to like get more into, right, and understanding. Hold on, I gotta make sure my device is charging here. So I unplugged it temporarily, but yeah, it's charging. But yeah, that's why I'm like trying to get more into it, right? You know, I think one of the things that has helped me, or at least it feels like it anyways, like you guys wouldn't see it, but the scheduling. I guess I can be known as a scheduler. You know, I guess it's got CR in it. If I had an R at the end, there's a C in there. I mean, you guys wouldn't, but yeah, you guys don't know about the schedule that I have, right? Unless I tell you guys in advance or whatever. Communicate that over to you guys or whatever, or share it like in this live stream. Shout out to the replay gang. If you're randomly seeing this, I appreciate it. Because clearly you must have heard me like say a bunch of stuff and you're still following me now. Or maybe you're just randomly coming in right now and it's like, oop, see yours live. I'm gonna chime in and say hi. Right? Stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like especially since I've been able to maintain it, I'm seeing some potential in it. You know, to the point that I actually wish I did that more at times, but when I was early stages of the stream, early stages of the channel, but at least I'm doing it now. I've been able to maintain it. Oh, not only maintain it, extend that buffer zone. Extend that out a little bit more, you know. And without sacrificing the quality of the content too much, right? As much as possible for what it is, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I will admit that sometimes there is some random, once in a blue moon, once a month, or every 2 months there's maybe a filler video. I will get, you know, trust me, there is, right? Where I'm just like, it's a more miscellaneous thing where I don't put that much effort into it, right? But then there's other times where, you know, I'm actually trying to put that content out, right? Putting a little bit more effort into it, a little bit more oomph into it, where I'm just like, you know, say more, show more, randomly, but you know, bust out a rhyme or add a sing along time. See, I made that work. I made that work. I just made that up too, you know, and just adding that in where I can, right? And enjoy making the content for you folks, right? Sometimes, at times, I'm just like, why am I making this content, right? And I'm like, maybe there is other reasons. aside from any financial incentive, which would be nice, but then, sometimes you gotta enjoy what you do too. Oh yeah, that must be it. That must be it, GP. That must be it. But he bro, that must be it. That must be the reason. You know? Like, he clearly saw what was in my mind and wrote it down. All the words that I didn't think of, and none of the words that I said. Yeah, it's still fun to... Because I've been working it in, right? As much as possible. Because I've been trying to put out some additional content out, right? And... Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. And sometimes, the content drops into my lap. Like, literally drops into my lap, where... because there's times where... the planning, recording, editing, whatever, all this stuff... the thumbnail, the description, the title, right? Yeah, sometimes I gotta work at it, right? Thinking, be like, what should I put as a title? What should I make it as a thumbnail? How am I gonna start the first 10 seconds of the video? What do I want to show in the video, right? Where it takes a little bit more thought and planning. Some proactive type of planning, right? But then there are times where it just drops in my lap. Like, I can see it, the blocks are just laying down nicely on the metaphoric foundation of the content, where it's just like, oh yeah, right? I'm gonna go like this, do this, say this. This will be my title. This will be my catch. This will be my hook. This will be my outro. This will be the body of, right? This will be my thumbnail. This will be what I'm putting as elements in the thumbnail, or as words that I specifically choose for the video, right? Or to make it different, I guess, obviously, CR style. Or your own personal style, whatever it is, right? Or, because it doesn't matter if you're doing, like, a gaming channel, bushcrafting channel, survival, gardening, reaction channel, whatever, right? You put your own style to it, right? And hopefully you can enjoy it and maintain that, right? Because, like, a lot of these, I've seen the videos of the content creation or whatever, right? They always, one of the things that they say more often is, like, content that's not just a one-off or a one-time deal, something you can repeatedly do. Well, if you can repeatedly do that kind of content, whatever it is, let's say gardening or whatever, right? Well, that all that means is that's that 1, 2, 3, how many videos in a year. Let's say you do one video a week, 52 videos, 52 weeks, right? That's like, that'd be like almost like your bread and butter type of videos, right? Where it's just like, yeah, providing that you have the content to shoot for it or show it, let's just say, like a flower or whatever, right? Or some sort of tomato or whatever, right? That kind of content is kind of like straightforward to you now. You kind of know what you want to say, thumbnail design, title, whatever, right? Description, tag words, hashtags or whatever, right? Yeah. It's like, that becomes like your almost bread and butter, right? Where it's like, relatively it's easy to put out, right? It just makes sense. Or it just makes sense to you, right? It just comes out naturally, right? Then there's other times where I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm gonna say, right? I just like, or there's other times where I'm just like, I know what I want to show on this as the content, even what I want to say in the video, or whatever, but I have no idea what I'm gonna name the title, and the thumbnail, you're just like, I don't know. Or one aspect of the content creation, right? If it's not the video, it's not the hook, it's that thumbnail or that title or the description or it's like, But sometimes when you start figuring out like certain aspects of it, other things fall into place into that foundation because it just literally fits, You know what I mean? It's just like, oh yeah, 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 all right. Like, I had this other video where, like, I was speaking to someone over on a private chat with them, and they're like, they didn't understand my title. I just like they're saying it, and I'm like, trying to get this right. Like, I mean, like it took a couple minutes, but they're like, oh, that now I get it. So, I'm like, yeah, 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 right. That's why I said it in that way, right, right. Where I'm spelling up the title phonetically, right, but when you're reading it, it's different, so to speak. But if you say it, you understand it. I was just like, they're saying it. I was just like, they're like, oh. I was just like, yeah. Now you get it. They're like, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. See, right? Because you're my number two fan. Maybe that didn't sound as great as I thought. Okay, maybe that did not sound as great as I thought. It sounded better in my head. Didn't sound so great when I just said it right there. It might be misunderstood in the wrong context at times. So, but yeah, I think this is why I've been doing it this way a little bit more, is to like emphasize certain little things and stuff like that. Even, yeah, sometimes even my comments at times are like that too, right? Like I could be serious on my comments, so like I leave for videos, right, and stuff like that, or on the side chat. But then sometimes I like to be kind of, how do I say, play on the words a little bit more, right? And one of the reasons why I'm actually doing that a little bit more at times, and you'll notice it, everyone knows, whoever see me on the live chats or whatever, I do that. Just kind of, I don't even know what to call it. Play on words, whatever, right? It's because I'm actually paying attention to what you guys are trying to say, or are saying, right? As much as possible. Yeah, sometimes I don't get a quote unquote reaction to it, but then there's other times it's like, oh, then, right? Because it's the reason for it. It's not always for a reaction, but to show that I'm paying attention to what people are saying, right? I'm not just kind of out in one ear, out there, or whatever, right? Or half listening, right? And I'm actually listening, right? As much as possible, right? As much as I can, right? Eesh, eesh. What does eesh mean? Oh, oh, never mind, never mind. My bad, Nick. My bad. My bad. For some reason, I didn't get it right away. I'm not as smart as you guys. Sometimes it takes me an extra minute to figure it out. But yeah. So I've been experimenting with some of that stuff. Sometimes it just writes itself, right? And I kind of like when the content or my words just almost write themselves out, right? It almost like, it just like almost instinctively is like that, right? I don't even have to think about it at times. It just kind of makes sense, right? That kind of deal, right? Almost like an autopilot. Or I could use another term, an anime term, but, yeah. I could use another term that probably could work out, right? Because it gets me thinking about the words, right? Just like, I've been asked this before, right? Especially some new people that join me or just see me, it's like, or whatever, right? They're like, what do you do on the channel, Sierra? Well, I create. Duh. But, there's a little bit more than that, right? It's to, like, understand how these things work together. Like, I'm talking about the words working together, right? And the meaning and, like, how we say them and how we understand them, the slang terms and all that stuff, right? The meanings of these, right? There's words that are homonyms, right? They sound the same, but they're spelled differently, right? That kind of stuff, right? to like if I'm talking about like like actual physical things like resources or gear, right? How these things can characteristics of them, right? You know, and understand, that's why some of my streams at times or videos you'll see me explaining it like that, right? As characteristics, right? And no, I'm not just using that word because it's got two CR words in there. Yeah, two CRs in that word. Very few words that have two CRs in it in one word, and our word is circular. But I like to circle that around, right? Because it almost makes me, this whole like, what I've said at times. When people say, thinking outside the box. Well, sometimes, at times, not always, sometimes, I'm thinking outside the box. That's outside the box. That's outside the room. That's outside the house. That's outside town limits or whatever, right? And kind of really exploring into that a little bit more, right? Because, and to tie this back into what I said earlier about researching and stuff like that, someone out there, or people out there, or a group of individuals, or a community, or whatever, but someone in time had to figure out that understanding of even old school primitive technology, which at that time for them was pretty modern for what it is, right? Modern technology is just modern for the time period, right? I'm talking about flint knapping, right? Someone figured it out, right? People figured it out, right? If you think about, understanding the characteristics, or they saw something, they made an observation of something, and they probably tried something out. I don't know. If you think about it, we'll never really know, obviously, but because that's, history. In the history, we can only infer what it means, right? But I'm talking about like, we're flint knapping, changing that and putting a handle like a stick onto it to extend the range, right? Think of an atlatl, right? Some of these people, oh yeah, it's a spear. We could throw a spear or whatever, or a javelin or whatever, right? Someone thought of extending it out by extending the range of. We can, because an atlatl extends the length of your arm, or at least the leverage you can get out of it, right? Because it's longer, right? And there's a little thing at the end, hold the dart and whatever, right? And you fire it, and stuff like that. And yes, I have tried that in a very small scale. And just like, someone figured that out, right? If you think about it, right? And it changed things because now it was able to do. You get more accuracy, range, speed, whatever, that kind of thing, right? And GP, what you guys don't know, GP has been secretly feeding me all this knowledge and information. He's been typing it and messaging it to me ever since we started the stream. I'm kidding, but no, I appreciate it though. But no, you're pretty smart yourself, GP. I remember smartness is relative, right? Relative. There's shows out there, game shows or whatever, right? Some people know one thing, some people know the same thing, then there are people know different things, right? It's one of these things that I even learned when I was young, a long time ago, right? I mean, like, as a story here, I guess I'll share this. I've shared this once, I think, right? When I was young, when you're in school, whatever, right? There's always that kind of the brain of the class, right? The smartest kid in the school or whatever, right? And there's the opposite end of that, right? I remember this one time where those kind of roles got reversed because they didn't know about it and the other person did because they're passionate or they've done research on it, right? It actually had to do with dinosaurs. I remember right? It was a question, did dinosaurs use rocks to eat? Well, apparently they did. To aid in digestion or to absorb it or to and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, alright. and stuff like that. I always remember that you could be the smartest person, but that one person doesn't know everything at times, right? You might know a lot of things. You might even know something very specific, right? But there's other things out there to learn, right? You know? Just because you got the book smarts doesn't mean you got the street smarts, and just because you got the street smarts doesn't mean you got the book smarts, right? And just because you can, I don't know, do woodcrafting or whatever, well, it doesn't mean you can do fabrication with metals and stuff like that. Just because you can use a lighter doesn't mean you can, use a ferrocerium rod and vice versa, right? Or you can use a ferrocerium rod, well, doesn't mean you can use sword and shit, right? Right? I mean, I've tried sword ignition, I've tried the ferrocerium rod. I've been trying to learn that kind of stuff too, right? And diversifying on that too, right? As much as possible, right? The techniques that help people and stuff like that, right? Okay, Nick. I'm just reading the comments real quick. But yeah. That's all. Even when I was in school and times, I was talking to everyone. Kind of deal, I guess. Smart people, the class clown, the jocks, whatever what you called it, or whatever it's called now, whatever that kind of, praise still exists, right? But yeah, because there was different things, right? It's just like, you know, and trying to increase the knowledge bank and the skill, right? Because usually knowledge is a brain thing, right? Knowledge, information, stuff like that, knowing certain details or how to do it, right? But skill, on the other hand, is usually like something physically done, right? It's just like the skill of, you know, using a ferrocerium rod, I guess, right? Your ferro rod to drive sparks, right? You might have the knowledge on, this certain angle, blah, 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 right? But do you have the skill to do it with your hands, if possible, right? And vice versa, right? Where you might know how to do it, but you just can't explain it, kind of deal. But you know how to do it. You just don't have the words to explain it correctly. It's just, I just know how to do it, and I don't know the words or whatever, the technical words, but yeah, right? Where you understand it, right? And that's why I'm just like, at times I'm just always trying to rationalize when I'm trying to do something, right? Where it makes sense to myself, right? Especially if I'm trying to, quote unquote, do something for the first time, or learn it for myself, or it's new to me, whatever it is, right? And trying to understand it. And yes, I actually have tried these other things at times. Now, there's one I haven't tried because I haven't had the chance or the resource to having it, but I have tried bow drill once, right? Where you take cordage, a bow, and stuff like that. You got your bearing, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. I think I got the tip high. I couldn't get an ember going, but I started to learn about it and understanding it, right? Where people will say, the exhaustion, yeah, that effort you have to put in. And it's like, yeah, I could tell now. I think maybe I'll try it again. I mean, yeah, I cut down the friction on it. I used a bearing block, well, man-made bearing block, right? I used the skateboard wheel to reduce the friction on the top, right? But I did try it out. I'm just like, at least a few times, right? I haven't done it for a while, but stuff like that. But I was starting to understand is just like, oh yes, you want to generate a flame or blow something in the flame with a tinder bundle. Well, you gotta get something hot enough. That means you have to get something going, right? Whatever it is, for friction, chemical reaction, solar, whatever, or something like hot sparks, an open flame, plasma, or something along the lines of that. I mean, these other friction fire techniques out there, right? There's the plow, there's this board thing, there's the hand drill. I mean, those are even probably more demanding, in my opinion. What did? Whoa, 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 whoa! I don't. What did I even say, GB? I don't even know what I said. I said a lot there. I don't even know. I wasn't even looking at the chat. I just like he just said, "Well done, Sierra." I'm like, I don't even know what you mean. He said it. I don't even know what he means. No, I'm just saying things that I've seen. Alright. Like I'm really like I said, there's no specific topic for this stream. I'm just saying things out. Not quite rambling, but just certain little things I've seen. Just observations. Yes, observations. I guess I might as well just Sierra's doing these observations in life. Seen this and that. I can't vote. Is it really? Hold on a sec. If I can hear it. There's no way. There's no way. Yeah, it's spitting outside. Because I'm sitting inside randomly. But it's spitting very, very slightly. Which is funny because the last time I did a live stream, it was raining. I can't believe that. There's no way. Now it's not gathering though. Like the ground's still dry, but it is spitting outside. I can hear it. I don't know if I'll be able to gather the water. It's not supposed to rain today. But I saw this the other day too, where it like randomly did this for like 5 minutes, and then it stopped and it cleared out. So I'm assuming it's gonna be like that again. I mean, you start hearing ting ting ting, or or whatever. I'll be like, you see me rushing or whatever. I'll be like, yeah, because I'm trying to gather the rainwater. Because I'm pretty sure I'm not needed. But yeah, right. Because I've always been trying more and more to bring these things together as much as I can, or at least have a greater understanding of it, right? But not just by saying it, reading about it, looking at it, watching a video, reading a text about it, but actually putting my hands into it too, or onto it, or into it, or around it, or flicking it. That probably just sounded all the wrong way. I'm talking about... Nah, okay, never mind. Hey, CR. Yes? You want a shovel? Why? Because you're digging a lot too deep into that. And it's like, yeah, okay. You guys know what I mean, though, right? But yeah, I've been trying. I am still human, right? I can only do so much, but trying. Doing what I can. It's just like the preparedness. I'm trying to do what I can. As much as I can. Maybe I can do more, yeah. But that's like anything. Anyone can do more. Can do more. But able to do more, but there's a difference between can and doing and able, right? And willing to and are doing more or am doing more, right? There's a difference between all that, right? Because you're really doing or just, I'll do it, Or it's just like, it's like the difference between like, I'll do tomorrow, and do that procrastination. Yeah, that's the other word that I don't actually try to do as much. I'm trying not to do that kind of CR thing, but versus, yeah, I'm gonna do this right now, where you're actually getting up to do it, whatever it is, right? And it's like, dang, I was just talking about bow drill. I didn't mean to really do it right now. I'm like, I got motivated to do it, right? Sometimes I'm like that, where I'm just like, I'll watch stuff and it will motivate me to want to do it at that same time, because it's like, because I'm actively thinking about it too, right? It's just like, for some reason, if I'm talking about it, thinking about it, or watching it, or reading next about it, I'll be like, I'll try to apply it, if that makes any sense, right? Or at least relatively speaking, right? Like, at times where I'm, like, about to water something, like a sunflower, and then I'm watching, like, a gardening video, it's just like, yeah, because I'm getting psyched up for it, alright, interested in it, alright, it helped me get more interested into it, so to speak. Well, yeah. right? I mean, like, society and technology is all based on things that were made, built, well, created, right? They were compounded, added from the past, right? Like if you look at a car, a truck, or whatever, you know, as complicated as it is, you can break that down to a lot of very simple things of the past that in time were manufactured, updated with new materials and whatever, right? A car is just a really up to date chariot. If you think about it, right? I've been looking at some of these on the history and stuff like that. I mean, like some of the stuff in the past, these chariots or whatever. Yeah, see our word. They had suspension, like webbing or whatever, right? The suspension on a truck, right? Wheels, right? We got rubber wheels that are vulcanized rubber, whatever, right? Inflated with air, right? Back then, wooden wheels, and then probably had some sort of insulation, not insulation, but to give it a little bit support, not support, but to damper the vibrational effects of like uneven ground and stuff like that, right? Even a simple thing as a handle, right? Which nowadays is a steering wheel, right? You know what I mean? Seats? Well, there's probably seats. Well, maybe. Or whatever, right? Like a horse and buggy, right? There's seats, right? Stuff like that. You know, and also there was a chair. If you look at the chair, there was always something, a room for supplies or people, right? Same thing. You look at a vehicle or whatever, people go inside. People put groceries in it or whatever in a modern day setting, right? A horse and buggy was used in the past as convenience, right? A form of transportation to move things around, right? A vehicle, modern day vehicle. Doesn't matter if it's petrol, electric, or whatever, or a hybrid or whatever, right? That's just, you know, an advanced version of one, you know. And there's probably gonna be something later down the road, 100 years, whatever, down, well, and thousands of years from now, whatever, right? There'll probably be something else, whatever it is, right? That's based on some other technology of the present world or current present day right now. Hey, it's Lynn! Oh my gosh! She's here? Hi, Lynn. How are you doing? Oh, I haven't seen you in a while. How's Seth doing, by the way? I appreciate you dropping by. I haven't seen you in a long time. She's probably like, what is he you're talking about? He's just rambling. Let's see. Okay, GP, yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's been a long time. I must have done the channel for a long time because I was like, dang. Next thing I see is like some of my subscribers and followers, their kids are like adults now. I'm like, dang, I'm getting old. Or I've done the channel for so long that it's just like, it's been that long. I've noticed that. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting old. Relatively speaking, you know what I mean? It just shows. Just don't remember it. Oh. Are you still doing... Oh, I'm trying to... What was it now? Are you still doing those owl things? If I remember that, Lynn... I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. I'm trying to remember that last live stream or video. I'm trying to remember if it was a live stream or video, but I'm pretty sure... I know it was a bird. Wasn't it an owl? Oh, I'm trying to remember it. I feel like I faint... Like, with the beads, right? I don't know. Let's see if my memory serves me right. Was it about the beads? I could have sworn it was about beads and owls. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I remember it now. I do watch a lot of videos and stuff like that, and I come across different people, so, you know, sometimes the details get mixed up, but I'm trying to remember. Yeah, see, I did remember the beads. Ah, damn it. It was a cat. Okay, I got the animal wrong, but I knew it was about beads. It's just like, I don't know why I was thinking owl. Maybe it was from someone else, but I knew I'm like trying to picture it in my head. Remember, it's probably been like over a year, right? And I'm trying to remember a very specific detail on spot uh, at a quick notice because someone randomly came in. So yeah, trying to remember all that stuff. Oh, okay, then I feel better. See, I knew I was on the right track, or maybe I'll be on the right track. Never mind. It sounded funnier in my head, but yeah, I'm trying to like remember that kind of stuff, and like I said earlier about the skills and knowledge, right, and trying to incorporate them together, right? Because like when you bring the skills and knowledge together, whatever it is, it could be artwork, it could be bushcrafting, it could be survivalism, it could be gaming, it could be drawing, it could be editing or whatever, right? Skill and knowledge, right? Where knowledge is generally like the brain knowledge, information type of thing, where the skill is like kind of applying it. Well, you know what you get when you actually bring those two together and actually do something? You get experience, right? And trying to draw that out. Yes, I just used the word draw as a verb. But yeah, you see what I mean though, right? Where it starts to, well, that experience starts to bead up, like BEED, right? Like little droplets adding together, right? Just like how I said this in this other video, right? Drop by drop, right? It does add up. Preparedness is in the same way, right? Editing could be, or content creation could be in the same way. Even drawing could be in the same way, right? Where you practice at it by actually doing it. Maybe you learn some knowledge or information. You apply it. You do a little bit with it with some skill that you have, and next thing you know, you have some more experience at it. Yeah, as much as possible. Because that's what I've been trying to do is just like applying things as much as possible, right? The knowledge, the skill, well, applying it in general, right? Because if you're applying insert word, you know what I mean? If it feels like maybe it'll become more kind of that muscle memory, more memorable, right? Whatever it is, right? As much as possible. I mean, even at times when I'm at these live streams or whatever videos, well, sometimes it's live streams, right? Sometimes that's why I'll make a funny or something or play on words because I'm trying to remember the situation, too, right? You know, maybe I said something funny. Maybe that's why I can remember it like half a year later because I made it funny enough or memorable enough that I can actually remember or see it again, right? And recall that information once again, right? It's just like skill and knowledge, right? Being able to recall something. Well, when you recall something, usually it's based on experience, right? As they say, you know, you you don't, you know, in a survival situation or whatever, right? You don't rise to the occasion, you just default back to training or something that you've experienced from before, I guess, right? That kind of thing, if you think about it, kind of applies to other things too in the world and what we do. I like how this. I like how the last three comments I'm just getting. I'm just like, where'd that all come from? Right? Clearly, clearly these guys are not afraid to say it. All I see is like naked, afraid, plumbing, shoes, blanket, dysentery. Oh, where all that come from? I didn't even say any of that. Yeah. You guys are taking you're taking the words out of context here. Right. I think I didn't realize we were gonna go down that path. What? All right. I didn't realize we were or dressing up situations go down that path, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's my late night stream. I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide. You guys are awesome enough. I'll let that slide. I'll let that slide. No, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. Someone brings something to the table. For the most part. Some form of something. Now, hopefully you would bring a little bit more to the table at times, right? That's why you add to it as much as you can, right? You know, as much as you can, whatever it is. Whatever it is, right? And keep adding to it as much as you can. You know? I guess this is why, you know, generally speaking, alright, you know. Okay, you know, I was gonna say something. Oh, okay, I'll retract what I'm gonna say. Rewind. Rewind. What I just said, because I've decided not to say it. I've decided I was gonna say something, but maybe not. Maybe not right now. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Sometimes trying to socialize. Yeah, you know, for what it is, right? I know there's introverts or whatever, but sometimes it's good to get things off your chest, say a few things, right? Even exchanging ideas, right? If you think about it, social media, even us right here, whatever, right? We're exchanging ideas, or conversation, or details, or stories, or funnies, or jokes, or stories, or ideas, or accounts of a certain situation or a very similar situation, right? Where, and sometimes doesn't feel relatable at times, right? Or people can understand what you mean about the situation. Even though at times I feel like I could say something and I'm like, I have no idea what I just said like 5 minutes ago. But people seem to be relating to it. So it must make sense because it ain't making sense to me at times. I'm still trying to figure it out. Right? I'm still trying to rationalize. It's like, what did I just say like 5 minutes ago? Did it even make sense? People are saying LO or something like that, but did it really make sense? Or did it just like following along, right? But once it starts, you can rationalize it or like make sense of it, then it's like, oh. And you're like where that light bulb moment comes up, right? It's just like when you get that random idea out of nowhere, right? It's like, and maybe it's been done before, rehashed or whatever, right? But, like, it's new to me, or I'll put a twist on it, right? Because if you think about it, virtually everything, I'll go back to the car metaphor or truck or a vehicle metaphor again, right? Just because it's got CR in it. But virtually everything in a vehicle, okay, there's some modern day things, like certain things, right? But there's certain little things where just, like I said, suspension, well, a chariot had suspension and glass. It's just made from different materials. Metal now. Shocks, as they say, right? But they had that kind of stuff in the past, right? Because, going over like a desert type environment or whatever, right? Uneven ground, right? For the nature of what it was used for, right? Something to absorb the shock, right? Make the ride a little bit more comfortable, right? Where it's a lot more smooth sailing, right? Stuff like that, right? And no one likes a bumpy ride. Unless you're riding like some carnival ride. Right? There's a chat delay. What? Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? I didn't see it. I didn't see that. Clearly didn't see that coming. No, I'm just feeling my phone. It shouldn't be hot. Or whatever. That actually feels cool to the touch. But yeah. I have to check it. I think it is still spinning outside. I'm gonna check in a moment here. Hold on. Actually, I know there's no way it's actually raining though. There's no way. Yeah, see, it's spinning and it's a small little drops randomly. Like, the ground's not even wet yet, so I highly. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna try this out. I have a certain spot that I can get something. So I just have to go. Oh, you're hearing this bucket. So I do have the spot that I have. I've shown this in the last live stream, but let's just say it's one of the first spots that I can hear it. So if I randomly get drops hitting that bucket a little more frequently, I'll know. I'll know that it's, well, at least beginning something. I'm pretty sure, like I said, I'm not going to get any accumulation of rain or any significant amount, but I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, where am I at? Yeah, I like how I've been talking for like 90 minutes, no topic. Only 4 people. I'm just randomly talking about stuff, trying to make sense of things, right? But, like I said, at times, right? Sometimes my streams are at different times. Not always at a set time. Yeah, you know, sometimes it's great to have a set time or whatever, or scheduled time, right? But because I did decide to do a late night stream this time around, and allows other people, like people in my chat right now, to join me. When other times they can't because, you know, it's too late or too early, or they're at work, or they're busy, or they're out gardening, or they're out doing their own thing, right? That's why at times I don't mind doing a different kind of timing, because it allows my other audience, not just my North American audience, my international audience, to come in too, chime in, say some words. Hi, CR. You know, and I'm like, hey, you know, what's up? And all that stuff, and chime back in, right? Because it allows you guys to come back in, right? Shout out to the replay again. If someone is randomly watching this later and on the replay and actually hear me say this, you can timestamp this right now at the 1:27 mark, hour 27-minute mark, and be like, oh yeah. And I'll be like, oh yes, I remember that now. I'll be like, clicking on the timestamp, it's like, oh yeah, this is what I'm saying right now. And every other word that I'm saying right now. And so forth, right? So. Because I know for me, at times, you know, I enjoy the comments, right? You know, if you timestamp something, whatever, right? I like that too. But then there's other times where I hear these other words, and times it's like certain little key things I said during the video, for example, or the live stream, where I'm like, oh, you did pay attention. I like that, right? You know, I think there's something always when you're talking to someone or whatever, and they're paying attention to you. They're like, you know, yes, and they're asking questions or paraphrasing something that you're saying, right? And it's like to understand things and stuff like that. Take care, GP. I'll see you later, GP. GP. I know what GP stands for. Oh, great person. Good person. You know, in a virtual environment, he'd be like the free guy. Did I just say that? Did I just say that? Sorry. Sorry, that was very bad, but yeah. It almost seems like that, though. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna go. I don't remember what time it is. I'll go for a little bit longer still. Why not? Until I started giving up on it. whatever taps out first. Right. But yeah. Like I said, I really didn't have a topic for this stream. It is what it is. It's whatever comes to my mind, whatever the side chat says, kind of deal. You know. But I know one thing's for sure. For these streams. For some of the videos going on forward, right? I'm gonna try to bring them in a different... Bring these things together. And that's actually what I'm starting to do more and more. I've noticed that. combine these things together, right? And maybe amplifying the message, right? At times, right? You know, just like in the preparedness community, right? You know, for the most part, for the most part, right? People got the gear out there, right? Preparedness gear, survival, bushcraft gear, or whatever, right? But, a lot of the times, a lot of the channels are people that are also showing, demonstrating, using words to explain while they're explaining, using words while they're demonstrating the skill, right? So so people can understand it that are watching, you know. So other people that are learning, let's say something new, like I'll bring, fire lighting, like using a ferrocerium rod back as an example, right? Like I know one of my subscribers had a video and what's the first ferro rod to get or whatever, right? One of the first things I thought of, and they kind of said it too. Like I'm paraphrasing here, but like the technique, right? I think they actually use the word technique, right? To understand the technique, right? Because it's like if you think about, well, as I think about it anyways, when I learned it too, right? I learned it by the technique, right? A technique, right? Understanding it and how it worked and where it translated to me actually being able to like put the sparks into said Tinder bundle or whatever you're using, right? And understanding that, and I'm all, maybe it's not always that first strike or whatever, right? Yeah, I don't care if it's always the first strike, right? Yeah, ideally, it'd be nice always first strike, but it is what it is, right? But always remembering the technique, right? Because that ferrocerium rod could be smaller, bigger, half inch, 6 inch, whatever, right? Magnesium bar combo or whatever, right? But that technique is important, right? That skill, the muscle memory, right? You might know the technical terms, right? It's a ferrocerium, iron, striker, friction, heats it up. That's how you get sparks, right? That's the more knowledge, right? The skill is actually being able to do it with your hands or whatever, where you're like, oh, yes. Take care, Nick. Let's see much longer I go, but, and stuff like that. And it's just like, I always remember that. It's just like, because you're bringing it all together, right? And hopefully, at times, you're doing it yourself and gaining experience from that and understanding it and rationalizing or understanding it for yourself, right, as much as possible. Because, like, I don't think I have a ferrocerium rod on me, but no, I don't. No, I don't think I do. No, I don't. But if I did, alright. Anyway. Hi, Vanessa. How are you doing, Vanessa Kitty? Good evening. Well, night. Morning, whatever. Wherever you are, right? I appreciate you dropping by randomly on me. I don't expect a lot of people. It is what it is. It's like late night, late in the morning, really late in the morning. Late in the morning? Early in the morning, North American time, right? I don't expect many of my North American viewers and followers to be up right now, but whatever. It is what it is. But, let's see. You actually read that, Vanessa? I'm actually like surprised because it's like GP wrote that like long. I'm pretty sure GP wrote that long time ago. But yeah, coming back to what I was saying, right, about that ferrocerium rod, right? I'm using this as a metaphor because I know some of you can understand it or have used it or whatever, right? And because that's a piece of gear. The knowledge is understanding how it works, right? Friction. You're shaving off little pieces with with the striker or scraper of the metal off the rod, and because of the speed, you get friction, and because of that, it heats up and you get sparks. Obviously, all in one strike. I was not using that word, but I won't. It might be my late night stream, but I'm not gonna use that word. It's not just sound weird. But every strike of it, right? You know, because if you don't apply enough pressure, you won't get a spark because there's no friction, right? That kind of thing. That'd be the knowledge part. The skill would be actually doing it, and then experience is actually doing it at different times. All right, when your hands are colder, when you're not thinking this straight, different types, a magnesium bar, ferrocerium rod combo, whatever, right? A smaller one, a shallower one, a shorter one, or whatever, right? Generally, this technique is relatively more or less the same because, well, there's only certain way. There's only certain amount of time. There's only certain ways to doing it, right? Generally speaking, right? Is these things have to combine together, right? The spark comes from shaving off pieces off the metal off the rod, and you have to have something hard enough like flint, glass, something like that that's harder than the steel on the rod to remove material, and then it's got to be fast enough or with enough pressure, well, fast enough and with enough pressure to generate heat. Hence, you get that spark, right? And, you know, this is all within that kind of motion that you're doing, right? So, there's always something I keep in mind and stuff like that. Because I know at times, like, I'll actually try it out randomly, right? When I have the chance. Right? Yeah. I get it. And, you know, for the most part, people are sale. They're like, oh, I'll use a lighter first. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I'll use a big first, whatever. I'll use a torch first. Right? But, you know, sometimes I'll practice. Well, sometimes, not all the time, right? I'll be like, you know what? I got the ferrocerium around the mag bar or whatever. I'm like, yeah, let's try this out, right? It's not to simulate something or whatever, right? You know, it's not a stressful situation, but I don't randomly try it out as a stressful situation because and put myself on the spot for it, right? Let's just say, you know, for what it is, right? You know, maybe I'm setting up a campfire, right? Campfire, like I'm going camping. So into the marshmallows. I'm actually gonna do that, almost like to train myself and see if I can do it as fast as doing it with a lighter, right? It as a way to like kind of simulate something, right? Where I'm putting myself on the spot, right? Not because I have to, because I want to try it, right? And yeah, I can dip back into a flame source if I want to, because it's in my pocket or whatever, right? But if I have that chance, right? Especially if I had the time to set it up too, right? Obviously, you need better tinder, or bird's nest or whatever, usually if you're driving sparks into it, versus an open flame like a lighter or a match or whatever, right? Because sometimes there's something about that too, where it's just like, especially if I do it on the first or second strike of it, it's just like, and I do it relatively quickly. To me, that's like a success, right? Because I was able to put myself on the spot. Didn't plan it, but why not, right? Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that, Vanessa. Yeah. I get why people have the larger ferrocerium rods that are like wider. I just don't use these R words when I'm not choose my words very cool, very well here. That are wider and have more distance. Oh, I bet anything I'm not get a lot of timestamps randomly. But yeah, see, I heard you saying that. You mean this word? I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to use that word though. It just sounds weird. But yeah, you guys know what I mean, right? I tried the little smaller ones. It is much more challenging, right? Yeah, I get the if you got more length, you can drive more sparks or hotter sparks because the contact with the contact with the length of the ferrocerium rod is well greater, right? In comparison to like something that's like you know meant for like let's say like a shoelace or whatever, right? Or a necklace, right? Or something that you might see on like a very small piece of quote unquote flint or very short ferrocerium rod. Like these orange 5-in-1 tools that have. I mean, I've never used one, but I've seen it, right? And I could tell it's like it's so short, right? That that would be much harder to do, to drive sparks into something. Not impossible, but way more challenging because the length of it, where it is and stuff like that. You would have to have something much better tinder, right? If you didn't have like cotton balls, petroleum jelly, something like nice and easy, it can catch a small spark, right? Hold on a sec. Give me one sec. You know, you would have to try a little bit more, right? Increase the surface area, right? Work the tinder better, right? I think a large ferrocerium rod wouldn't just allow you to. I mean, you probably still have to work the tinder a little bit, right? You wouldn't have to increase the surface area maybe as much, right? Maybe with more a little bit more leeway on the marginal tinder, right? I mean, obviously it probably still has to be dry to a certain degree, right? You know, stuff like that. Oh yeah, the birch. Yeah. I tried that out before. You know, the birch bark. I remember. I said something about thinking outside the box earlier, right? Because there's this one technique with it where you scrape the surface, right, with your cutting tool, your ferrocerium rod, or whatever, right? I remember when I showed it, I decided, you know what? Surface area, right? As a great teacher once said, or someone older than me has said, right? The secret to find your surface area, right? So one of the things I tried to do instead, and try this out, I've shown this on the channel, right? So there's no word of lie, right? I haven't done it for a while, but instead of scraping the little on the surface of the birch bark, there's these a lot of videos will show scraping the surface, right? Little almost like making a little dust of it, a little dust pile of it, then striking into that with your ferrocerium rod, right? I tried it with an empty, dead, no fuel lighter, but I made little shavings or almost like feather sticks, right? I mean, doing it, right? Where basically it's just like I tried it that way. I was just like personally surprised. I'm like, oh wait, that could work too, right? And understanding how that works, I'm like, well, that makes sense. I'm increasing the surface area, I'm increasing the surface area where the sparks can land. In terms of this case, it was later with only sparks, right? I probably could have did it with a ferrocerium rod too, right? I'm pretty sure I would have been able to anyways, but I didn't do it with a ferrocerium rod. I just did it with an empty, you know, no fuel lighter, right? But I was just like, you know, if it's true about the surface area, I should be able to do it with weaker sparks, or at least sparks from an empty lighter or whatever, right? A dead lighter and stuff like that. Because I've shown this twice now, where it's just like some of these challenges where people are doing it with a ferrocerium rod. I'm like, yeah, okay, I've seen it work or whatever. I can understand that working, but let's try this out with an empty lighter. I did that as a challenge, right? I've done this twice now. I've shown it on the channel twice, where with birch bark and with a candle, right? With an empty dead lighter, right? I was just like, I gotta learn from it. Actually, I showed it as part of, well, you guys saw it as an excerpt from my live stream that I did, right? And someone was there. I have a witness there that's, I was keeping at it for like 20 minutes, right? Or like, or 15 minutes or whatever, right? I'm like, yeah, I did this earlier and it wasn't that long, but for some reason, I'm doing it live on the spot. It's like taking longer, right? But I didn't give up. I actually did get to it, but I'm like, way more tricky. But I started to learn from it. I'm like, and some other things to keep in mind. And I started to understand and always remembering. I'm like, bringing the knowledge and however the skill is combined together with that experience to hopefully, well, and with the gear in this case, right, those supplies, those resources, and do something with it, right? I'll say to make a flame or whatever, start a campfire or whatever, right? Or a candle, right? I was always like, that knowledge again, I'm like, yeah, surface area. Yeah, just like someone said to me a long, long time ago, secret to that, right? I'm always, if at times when I'm ever having troubles with something like that, I always remember that. I'm like, because they were right. Right? Sometimes it is the secret. That is the secret, the ultimate secret, as they say, right? I always keep that on mind. Sometimes that extra 10, 15 seconds to set it up like that dramatically decreases the ignition time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, so whatever one works at that time, right? But I've tried both before. I should actually try it again next time I have a chance. Do it again. See if I can duplicate it, right? Get reproducible results again, right? Let's see it again, all right? Or do it live, or do it in front of people where it's not like cut in terms of like a static edit video, right? Where I'm doing it live on the spot. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what I can do. Also, I'm not gonna do it right now. Right? But that's just something that might spark my interest later down the road, right? I'm just keeping that in mind now. So, as much as possible. Because stuff like that is just like, it's good to understand, right? Because at times, yeah, in preparedness, you prepare for it, right? You might have some contingencies, you'll have a primary option, alternative contingency, and emergency option, right? But, it's good to understand how, not only how it works, but, when you don't have the ideal things because the nature of the situation, then what, right? Yeah, it's nice to have your, plasma lighter, your giant ferrocerium rod, your, dryer lint, cotton balls, petroleum jelly, Vaseline, whatever, right? That kind of stuff. Yeah, I like that. It's easy. It makes it easier, right? But who are you even without that, right? Have you tried other things? Not because you wanted to, but because that's how it has to be done this time around. Or you're doing it for fun and trying it out and testing yourself, right? In a more controlled environment, be like, oh yeah, this ain't that much harder. Yeah, it's harder or more difficult to do, but it's still achievable because, you understand the knowledge of how this stuff works and you're applying that skill or technique in, right? And you learn from it as experience, and then, you diversify a little bit more in terms of the resource or the gear, right? Because you tried it with this and that now. You know what I mean? Because, like, even in the bushcrafting community, there's, like, always this kind of, like, well, and I say it in a certain way, too, right? Where it's, like, a flame source, like a lighter, a ferrocerium rod, and, like, a magnifying glass. I know some of the bushcrafters say that, right? Or how I say it, in terms of a flame, a spark, and a heat source, right? But understanding, like, those options, right? Stuff like that. Because I remember this one time where it's kind of hotter out or whatever. I was with friends or whatever, right? It wasn't anything major, right? My one friend's like, we're in the backyard or whatever, right? The host of this house, right? This home, right? Talking to me and my friend, they're like, hey, you two, can get a fire started in the fire pit. You know, I'm gonna, whatever, right? You know, my friend, right? I took that as a challenge, and there's a reason why I'm saying this, is because I took that as a challenge, right? You know, I had a lighter, in my bag or whatever, right? You know, my friend had one too or whatever, right? Something like that, right? You know, even before I started, right? I took that up. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take that up as a challenge, right? I think I might even have used. I think I might even have used an empty lighter just for fun, but I see them, you know, it's like that kind of mentality is just like later. Oh, I got an open flame. This will be easy, right? Trying to start like sticks, right? You know, and here I am improvising off the landscape, taking a look. Right? I'm like, what do we got around us, right? Apparently, my friend had some fast food, right? So there's like napkins randomly around, or like a paper bag, right? I took that first, right? I didn't even take the sticks initially, right? And my my friend, right, not the host or the owner of the place, right? They're like, well, I'm not even trying. See, I'm like, yeah, okay, you're not trying, but you're just using a lot of your fuel. Okay, so yeah, okay, whenever you say, right, you're not trying, right? But the idea is to understand that in certain situations you might have to um, not be resourceful, but you might have to conserve your resources because that's all you have. For example, right? You know, so you want to be able to get it going as fast as possible, but hopefully, maybe you only have a limited amount of resource, right? For whatever the reason is, right? Could happen. Obviously, if you plan, hopefully you wouldn't have to, right? You would have better contingency plans, just in case, right? But if it came to that, right? So this is why I'm presenting this story again, because I've mentioned it. I've mentioned it on our channels more or less, and I've seen other people like indirectly mention similar stories, right? And I've seen this while I've been camping, when I was helping people too, where it's just like a lighter, sticks, right? And I always remember surface area. I was just like how an old wise teacher has said. Unfortunately, I haven't seen them for a while, but and then stuff like that. But they told me this a long time ago, and I'm like, I always remember this, right? I always remember it every time I see it, or have this come up, or whatever, or I see someone having that issue. I'm like, yeah. I'm always like surface area, surface area, surface area. I'm like, yeah, right? Spark, make it ultra fine, right? And so forth and so forth. Yes, I do actually have an acronym for that now. I've been working on that too, because that helps me refine. Oh yeah, yeah. See, R, F for flame. Yeah, all that stuff, right? And refine it because it's just like, oh yeah, it makes sense a lot more, right? Because yeah, there's ways to cut down the time or whatever, but do this, use an example, blah blah blah. I mean, like, yeah, but you might not always have that access to it, you know. But you might, or whatever, right? So I always keep that in mind. But yeah, basically, our our host, the host of the house or the household, right, head of household, I came back there, like, oh, you guys got it. Oh, you guys got it going. I'm like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. We got it to go. like, yeah, teamwork. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, yeah, all right. Stuff like that. I didn't take any of the credit. I didn't even care, right? Like I said, I was doing it as a challenge again, right? Because this was like, because I could have went and got other things. I had a couple things in my pocket or in the bag or like an EDC or whatever. I could have pulled stuff out and expediently, if necessary, right? But this is where it was not too bad. It's not like it's freezing cold outside at all. Like needing warmth right there kind of deal. It'd be different, right? That's what that situation would be like. That I'm talking about is not where I have to pull out all the stops, right? If I have to pull out all the stops on it, right? Yeah, I'll do something else, right? Because then there's a certain reason why I'm doing that. Sorry, I didn't realize. We saw that. Fine. Yeah, that is what you heard. Remember, this is live, so I can't control that. So yeah, that's why it was muted. But I didn't realize they would. There's a reason, but I like how I'm talking about randomly talking about like laters and yeah. Guess what came by randomly? Yeah, that. But yeah, I'm telling you. So yeah, like I said, if you view, if the chips are down, yeah, that's when to pull out all the stops, right? But as a challenge, when I don't have to pull out all the stops, because it's dry, sunny, or whatever, I'll do that as a challenge, right? Someone wants marshmallows or whatever for a campfire or whatever, yeah. Like, I'll do it another way, just as a challenge. Even, there was this time it's been a while, a couple years back, right? Where I've used my charting, right? I didn't explain it in that video as much, right? Because I didn't show the beginning of it, right? I only showed you guys the charting, right? Using the charting, but in the beginning, I took the time to set it up, right? I was showing people stuff, right? And now, granted, I didn't actually use Spark for that. I might have. No, because I think I was showing the fire glitter to some people, right? I was showing them, right? Explaining this to them, right? So they can understand it, right? Fire glitter, right? Just like a trick handle, right? Same concept, right? And I had some other people that were a little bit older, even older than I am, right? That kind of thing. Everyone else around was kind of like slightly younger or on par to my age, right? But the older people, let's just say, relatively speaking, older than me, they actually understood that. I didn't even say the word. They're like magnesium. I'm like, oh, you know this, right? I'm like, I was actually presently surprised, right? Because I was presently surprised they knew that, right? I was just like, oh, look at that. Someone knows some knowledge out there, right? They might not have known, but they kind of knew, kind of deal, right? So I was like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I'll probably go for this 2 hour mark. I'll probably go, I don't know, 10 more minutes or so. Probably should get some rest. I got stuff to do tomorrow for the Saturday, which includes joining a live stream. And yeah, it's not spitting outside anymore, so I knew it was just kind of faint and all that stuff. Yeah. So, I don't usually mention these stories because it takes time to explain, set it up, and stuff. And also, I clearly do not mention these stories on my videos. These are long stories. So I have to explain. It takes some time to explain some of them. I have to set it up, right? I have to explain it. Give you guys some exposition, right, and all that stuff, right? Some background, PG context of it, right, and stuff like that. Because I always remember these stories, what happened and stuff like that. It's not to brag about it. It's to show that I'm trying to apply the knowledge, right? Not only apply the knowledge, but also quote unquote gain experience by pushing the limit on how I'm doing it, right? Yeah. It's just like maybe if the first time you're using a ferrocerium rod or whatever, right? Use something easy, like a cotton ball, right? Try to challenge yourself after the fact. Or from a man-made tinder like dry cotton ball, cotton pad or whatever, right? Try it with feather stick. Oh, maybe it's fat wood. Try that. Oh, you want to increase the difficulty? Try it with just wood shavings that are not resin infused, like fat wood or something like that. Right? That doesn't have something like that in there. And try it again. Alright? Alright? Oh, you did it with a first time, right? Okay. You do it with like an empty lighter. An empty lighter would just spark something later. You know? And understanding how it all works together, right? Because I feel like when I started to do it like that, it felt like I was actually learning, picking up some knowledge. Picking up some experience because I'm increasing the difficulty of things to a certain degree, right? You know, it's not to show off, it's to challenge myself. I was like, come on, surely I can do this. Surely this can work, right? I didn't know at first, right? Like I see a video, someone's doing it with Ferris Run. I decided I'm gonna try this with an empty lighter, right? See if it works, right? I'm like, oh, look at that. It does work. I can do it, right? You know, I'm trying it like that, right? Because I'm always remembering, I'm like, single things. I'm like, oh, yeah, all right. Surface area, all that stuff. So, with that, since I have a couple minutes left, like always, everyone. Yeah, 2-minute warning. Yeah, 3-minute warning on my live stream. I appreciate everyone dropped by. GB, Vanessa. I haven't seen any comments lately, but it's all good. It says I still have 2. Some other people. Lynn, appreciate it. Nick. Alright, some other people that dropped by earlier, Mike. Hey, all that good stuff, right? Everyone that's catching this on the replay, right? Maybe I should put out the RCR. Whatever. I was even planning on it. This is an impromptu stream. Get some WT. Share some time with you folks. Some stories. Maybe some stories that I don't always get to mention on our live streams. Let alone my own, because time restraints and all that stuff, right? And besides, I'm the host. So it's my show. So I'll say I can say these things now, right? So I appreciate everyone that dropped by. You know, things are going on, right? You know, and we need to adapt to this situation, right? Roll with the punches or whatever, right? You know. So go out and practice those things. Just when you can, the best that you can, right? Trying to challenge yourself a little bit more. Maybe you'll discover something else you can do. Alright? Realizing that, you can be more than just the gear out there. Right? Or the resources or the gear that don't define what you can do. But the things you know, the skills you've picked up from trying stuff or challenging your stuff. Your experience, for lack of whatever word, start to define what you can do, because it's just like you're able to adapt the information in as much as possible. So, yeah. Go do those things out there. And try things out. When possible, try to help someone out there, right? And not just yourself, too. Yeah, help yourself, too, obviously, but, but always try to help other people, too, right? Try to give someone a hand. Try to, understand certain things, right? Because helping someone else out may, in time, not always, help you out later down the road, right? They may pay it back forward to you later down the road. You just don't see it right away because it hasn't happened yet, right? You do something today, I help you tomorrow. That kind of, I'll scrunch your back, you scrunch mine kind of deal, right? Sometimes it always takes someone to start it, right? You know what I mean? And yeah, I get it. You can't help everyone out there at times, right? That I definitely know. you know, I'm not in the U.S. right now to help people. But I do what I can to help people around here, locally, right? Improve my own situation here, right? My own quote-unquote neighborhood, as they say, right? As much as possible. I'm trying to do this networking at times, right? Meet some other people and stuff, as much as possible. Sorry, I thought I was hearing something. And whoever it is, right? Gardeners. Maybe you're talking to people that fabricate wood, carpenters, whatever, right? And trying to understand this stuff. Maybe help them out, just so you have some minor experience with it, right? Putting together something, whatever it is, right? Apply that knowledge, right, across different things, right? And trying to make it so it's like part of you, who you are. Where it's not, like I said, it's not where the gear and resources define who you are, but it's that knowledge, that skill that you picked up, what you're able to do. All right. It's not what the resources and the gear can do for you. It's what you can do with those skills. It's what you can do with that gear and resources. All right. And trying to pick up some experience too. And until the next time, everyone, take care. Appreciate everyone dropping by. If you just heard all of that, you're awesome. Shout out to the replay gang, and I'll catch you all next time. Take care, everyone. Woo! From CR. Dun, dun, dun. And like that, take care.